tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled are designer Paul Engemann and author Nancy Mehagian. Paul Engemann was born in Provo, Utah, Provo, and raised in Studio City. He graduated from Brigham Young University. He's lived a full life as a songwriter, a singer, a designer, and currently presidential representative for Showside Chocolates. Let's look at your musical background. Does it run in the family?
Oh boy. Well, you know, I just kind of grew up in the studio, Joan. My father was a vice president of Capitol Records, and my mother was a studio singer.
She was. Who did she sing with? Ray Conniff?
Ray Conniff. She was a lead singer for Ray Conniff, and she did. You know, she was a studio contractor, so she was kind of like a first call girl, and they would.
Call girl.
She was a first call girl, not a call girl. But worked with Elvis and Sinatra and Streisand, everybody, you know, and she would always drag me along. So when they had need for like children and children's choruses and Disney movies and things like that, I started in the studio at 3 years old.
Is that right? So you were there? Did you have a big family?
We had 5 kids in our family.
Oh, well, it was pretty big.
Yeah, big family.
Did they all go musical?
Yeah, every single one of them.
Talking about that, your uncle also.
My Uncle Bob was one of the original Letterman.
So was that her brother?
No, my father's brother.
So the music goes on both sides.
Yeah, it runs in the family. My dad, you know, I had a real exposure to a lot of different kinds of music because he worked with everybody at Capitol, but he was very closely associated with the Beach Boys and brought them to Capitol Records.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
And now he's managing?
Now he manages and has managed for 30 years Marie Osmond.
30 years?
He worked with the Osmond family, but the only one that he's managing now is Marie.
Oh, my gosh. Well, back to Paul.
Yeah.
At 14 years old, you had a contract at MGM?
I did with MGM Records with Mike Curb over there, and we released.
With Mike?
Yeah, Mike is a dear friend.
Oh,
yeah.
they're great.
Yeah.
Oh, terrific. Yeah. See, we found out new things
There you
today.
go.
And while you were singing, you went to school, you went to Brigham Young, you graduated, you did all of that.
Exactly. Lived in Peru for 2 years.
You lived in Peru, and you learned how to speak Spanish.
Yeah.
What were you doing there?
Well, I was a missionary for our church there.
Oh, and I know if you're a missionary, you have to learn the language and you have to go out into the street.
Well, we would. Yeah, boy, I tell you what.
Could you carry yourself well with that?
Yeah, after about 6 months, you know, you get pretty proficient. So.
And then you wrote with the great Giorgio Moroder.
Yeah, when I came back from that experience in Peru, I moved back to Los Angeles and started working with Giorgio, who's, you know, just a musical genius.
But did you know him through the family too?
I knew him through mutual acquaintances, and he had heard my demo tape, and we just started working together. And I sang the main title of the movie Scarface, which he produced. It was a song called "Push It to the Limit."
And so he brought you in the studio. Was he up on the hill?
No, his studio was over there on Lankersham.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so, and did he write the music?
Giorgio wrote "Push It to the Limit," with a guy named Pete Bellotti, and
you?
I was the artist. And then we started writing together, and we had several hit records over in Europe. We co-wrote the music for the 1984 Olympics here in Los Angeles, and had a #1 record throughout Europe. It was huge in Germany. I was big with David Hasselhoff.
He's very big in Germany, Giorgio, isn't he?
Oh, Giorgio, yeah. Throughout all of Europe, yeah.
Well, I love these pictures.
Oh!
I brought these pictures. I saw these at Kathleen Spiegelman's the other night, who does our sets. So I brought this with me.
Yeah, these are my embarrassing hair pictures. I wound up being the lead singer of a rock group called Animotion in the 80s, and we had a top 10 record in 1989 called Room to Move. That was the theme song for My Stepmother is an Alien with Dan Aykroyd and Kim Basinger.
That was in the 80s?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, yes, I've
so you were blonde, long-haired?
I was long-haired, and yes, there was a lot of blonde in there. And now I have these expensive white highlights.
What did you do? What did you sing? And who were the other people with you?
Well,
Were you
I was the lead singer, along with with a woman named Cynthia Rhodes. Cynthia was a movie actress. She was in Staying Alive, and she was in Dirty Dancing.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
She's married to Richard Marx. And yeah. And so the two of us were the singers in Animotion, yeah.
And then you changed your lifestyle to be a designer.
Yeah, my wife, was an actress and a very busy actress, and I was always on the road, and we had a child. And so we're like thinking, how are we going to do this? Because I'm always gone, and you're always filming, and never the twain shall meet.
She did a lot of commercials, you said.
Tons. Pearl Drops. Oh, it's a great feeling.
She did that?
That thing ran for
how long?
14 years, that commercial ran.
And
yeah.
Was that at the good time when you could get residuals?
Oh yeah, that's exactly right. Yes, it was. Yeah, that was a terrific thing for her.
So did you want to give up commercials?
Well, what we decided is that we were going to take a little hiatus, and we moved actually to Provo. And we just said, let's take a year or two and kind of figure this out, what we want to do, because we had a child. We were trying to figure out what to do and how to raise them.
Was she from there too?
No, she kind of went kicking and screaming.
Oh, because it's pretty small
Well,
community.
it used to be, but it's not anymore. It's kind of a metropolis now. But when we moved there, it was less so. But we really didn't know what we were going to do, and we moved into our home and just kind of took it easy. And we had some friends come over, and they said, we just fired our designers, and we love what you've done with your house. Would you do ours? And we kind of looked at each other and went, okay.
You mean no classes, no school, no anything?
No, but we became ASIDs in the process.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and some of the most famous designers in the world were untrained. Mario Buada.
He's
never.
not trained?
No. It's sort of like a situation where you can or you can't, and it's an innate thing, and it's something that was always a passion for us.
So that kept you at home, or did that
Yeah, it was great, because we really all of a sudden became very, very busy in high-end residential design and wound up being featured in Architectural Digest, and that's a good thing for a design business. And then sort of years later, 16 years later, I attended a birthday party for my brother-in-law. My sister's married to Larry King.
I was just going to say, but did you design his house?
We did. That's the one. Yeah, that's the one that was featured.
Before we get to the birthday party, I want to talk a little bit. I want to just show this, because this is the kind of work you did, but you do all different kinds of work.
Well, yes. My wife is still running the design business, Austin Go Boston Designs, and
what's it called?
It's called. Okay, you'll laugh. It's called Austin Go Boston Designs. It's my son's nickname. We don't take ourselves very seriously.
Oh, I was laughing because wait till I ask you why you're called Cocoa Rocks.
Oh, we'll get into that.
We'll get into that. But so tell us a little bit about the design of this room.
Well, my sister fell in love with the painting that's over that mantle, and so we used that as the inspiration for the entire room, and the colors came from the painting.
And she had the painting?
Your
sister
she purchased it, and my sister is married to Larry. So,
and this is
and that's their home.
We shouldn't even say that, but this is their home. And this was a
well,
feature.
it's not their home anymore.
Oh, it's not.
No,
okay,
they've moved from there now.
Okay,
yes.
Okay. So what style is it really?
It's just very traditional, sort of European, and with a little bit more modern comforts built in onto how some things are done.
I'm going to look at it. Yes, it's beautiful. But then they moved to another house. Did you decorate that too?
Yes. My wife is in the process of doing that now.
So you actually, I don't know if you got to Kathleen Spiegelman, who's been doing our sets for years, or if I got to her first.
Well,
but she's great. And we love these chairs. We love everything that she does for us.
Kathleen is a dear friend. She's become a dear friend over the years because she has beautiful things. And she's done a lot of work with us for the Kings and other clients. And so we just adore her. Yeah.
Well, now get us to the birthday party. Was it Larry's birthday party?
Well, what it was Larry's 70th birthday. And my sister threw this enormous surprise birthday party for Larry at the Museum of American Television and Radio there in Beverly Hills. And at that party, I met a woman named Jeanette Brooks. Now, don't show it quite yet, because I want to surprise him.
Okay, go on.
Jeanette was, at the time, the owner of a huge, huge corporation that did chocolate. And it was a $300 million a year company, but she was very heavy, and she had diabetes, and she was kind of a little miserable health-wise, but just a hoot. What a great lady.
Did she eat her chocolate?
Well, she had a
eat her
low-carb
own
chocolate company, and
so-
and it was a little bit different than what I'm doing now. But she called me 2 years after that party and said, "You're not going to believe what's happened for me. I'm shutting down my Pure Delight company, and I'm starting something new." And she says, "Oh my gosh, Paul, these products help to lower blood pressure and regulate your blood sugar and helps with your cholesterol." And she told me all this stuff, and I said, "Right, and fairies come and dance," because it just sounded too good.
Yeah.
Then
And we hear about, we heard about chocolate. The doctor
Right.
says, eat chocolate for your heart, eat
Right.
chocolate for this.
Exactly.
But we don't believe it. But go on.
Well, and neither did I until she said, "Okay, I know that you're not believing me. The product that I'm working with is an unprocessed chocolate." And then she emailed me that. And
Okay,
this is
I'm
a
gonna
side-by-side
show you
of her.
This is disgusting.
It's
because she looks so fabulous.
Yeah, she had lost, I about fell off my chair when I saw this. She had lost 120 pounds, and she took her insulin need from 125 units a day down to 10. And so I went, whoa, and I said, "Tell me about this." She says, "It's unprocessed chocolate." And she said the difference between any chocolate product that's out there right now and this product I'm working with is that that's processed and it sucks out most of the antioxidants and nutrients, and mine doesn't.
Well, tell us what goes into processed, because you were talking about
Oh,
wax
sure. Oh,
and
yeah.
sugar.
Well, what happens
Oh.
when they process chocolate in the normal way, anything that you're seeing on the shelves, first of all, they ferment the beans. So antioxidants are leaving in the fermentation process, and they roast them, which kills more. Then they alkalize them, kills more, add wax, fillers, preservatives, white sugar, and all of that turns it into candy, which is what Shasai is not.
Is what we eat, candy.
That's candy.
We're not eating something that's supposed to be a healthful or something that could be healthful for us.
Exactly. And all of the studies that are in all the magazines where they're saying, hey, dark chocolate could be good for you,
Right.
that was done with a laboratory blend of very high flavanol chocolate that normal people can't get. And that's exactly what Shasai is.
So this is Shosai.
Yeah.
We have a picture of it, and you can tell us, it comes in a couple of different
It comes in
things.
6 different permutations.
Okay.
We have, these, well, I want to show this because just this,
Look, this one little thing I'm
just
showing
this
on the screen.
one little nugget right here, it's called an X power square, is equivalent antioxidant-wise to a half a pound of raw spinach.
Okay, let's talk about half a pound of raw spinach. Let's talk about it. You praise the antioxidant in Shosai.
Yeah.
And antioxidants attack free radicals.
Yes, they do.
What are they?
Well, okay. Antioxidants fight something called free radical damage in your body. I'll make some for you right now. See, I just burned
bad.
oxygen in my body. A byproduct of that is called an oxygen-free radical, and it's a damaged molecule that bumps around inside your body trying to balance itself, and in the process creates havoc. It's part of the aging process.
We all have to go through it.
Yeah.
And you're not a doctor, so you're not prescribing this as
Oh,
any
no,
kind
no,
of
no,
health
no.
thing. It's just something that can help
Well,
us.
Shasai is part of a healthy lifestyle, and it's it's the highest, most potent antioxidant that you can consume.
Which is great.
Yeah.
And
I'm
that's
not
why
a
you eat
doctor.
raw food, right?
Yes.
So that you can get the
Exactly
antioxidant.
right.
Now, we have to leave, so
Okay.
I want to know why we call you Cocoa Rocks. C-O-C-O-A Rocks, right?
Cocoa Rocks.
Like rocks,
That's
you
right.
rock?
Well, I was in rock and roll, so Cocoa Rocks is my website.
And this is your cocoa.
Yeah,
And it's been so interesting because you say she lost so much weight. Do you just keep a regular diet?
Yeah, well, basically chocolate in this form is an appetite suppressant. It also raises your serotonin level, so you just feel better. And that's kind of the deal. But yeah, you keep your regular diet. You take them 3 times a day, 20 minutes before a meal, and you're going to feel great.
Okay, I'm starting right now. Thanks, Paul.
Oh, you're so welcome, Joan. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching, Paul. And this part of the show, we'll be right back with Nancy Mehagian, our culinary expert. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Author, cook, culinary expert, Nancy Mehagian was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. She attended USC and went on to Arizona State University for her degree in English Lit. She's traveled the world, which she chronicles in her memoir, Siren's Feast. As a massage therapist, she studied the Japanese healing art of Jinshin Jitsu. Tell us why this practice is so important.
Well, it's the basis of all the healing arts. It's been around 6,000 years.
Ooh.
Acupuncture's been around 3,000 years. So I've always liked to go to the source of the wisdom rather than, offshoots. And when I found Jinshin Jitsu, it was so effective that I just wanted to study that the rest of my life.
Where did you find it? Because you worked with a master teacher, right?
I did. The journey that I chronicle in my memoir, Siren's Feast, took me all around the world, kind of on a quest, like the hero's journey. And I ended up finding my teacher in the town where I grew up.
Right in your backyard?
Yeah, so it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz, There was no place like home, and I went all over the world to find what I was looking for at home. But I wouldn't have known if I hadn't left home, so.
And is it a form of massage therapy? Because I know you're a massage therapist as well.
It's more a kind of acupressure.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's pressure points, it's reading pulses to determine which energy flows are used. So it's really a way of harmonizing the energy flows in the body.
Well, I know your clientele reads like a Hollywood who's who, because I myself know that you've worked with Quincy Jones and Linda Gray and the Eagles. And how do they fit into your pattern? How do they find you? How do you work with them? Because you were on the road, weren't you?
I did travel with Quincy Jones on promoting his juke joint. I also traveled with him in Montreux, Switzerland for the festival
jazz.
there.
Yeah.
And the Eagles, I was on their Hell Freezes Over World Tour, which was, both of those trips were just about as much fun as anyone could have. I think I had the best job of anyone.
Were you working backstage or what?
Sometimes I would be backstage and, or just available in the hotel. We were with the Eagles, I was on the road for 2 months.
How do you get away? What about your other clients? What about your cooking? What about all this other life?
Well, traveling is a huge part of my life. And people will wait for you.
We know that. So one of the things that I found in Siren's Feast, when you say people will wait for you, you started out in a real hippie life situation in Ibiza. And when I read it, I kept saying, how did she remember all of this? And you say, tell us what you say.
Well, I've been blessed with a very good memory. It got me through school. I have sort of a photographic memory, and I do keep journals, but I didn't then. And fortunately, I just was able to remember.
And some of the things you said, you think the vocabulary and the talk was this way. You don't just say categorically, this is what we said, because it gives you the essence of what was going on in there at the time.
Ibiza was, a friend called it a stone soul picnic on the last surviving tip of Atlantis.
Stone soul?
Yeah, and it really was. It was just, Ibiza during the late 60s and early 70s was like no place I'd ever been, and I hadn't planned to stay there, but when I arrived, it was so magical and so special, and there were people there from all over the world, artists, musicians, painters, drug fund kids, drug dealers, all kinds of people. It was really fascinating, and I decided I had to find a way that I could stay there.
And what did you do?
So, because I was a new vegetarian and I was really gung-ho about this whole vegetarian diet for health, and at the time we were studying yoga and meditation and herbal medicine, I decided to open the first vegetarian restaurant in Spain.
And what was it called?
It was called the Double Duck.
It was such a funny name.
Yeah, it was a funny name, and for a vegetarian restaurant.
That's
but I did that for 3 years. It was Not that the Spaniards came there so much to eat. It was more for the expatriates who were living on the island. And
probably the tourists, right?
And tourists. We had Taj Mahal came through. Joni Mitchell was at my restaurant. Cat Stevens.
And it was really serendipitous that you found the place and your friends that you were all living with on the hill came and helped you.
Yeah, it was a very magical time.
But it must have been so much work.
Restaurants are so much work. So even though I was like in my early 20s when I opened the restaurant, and I did all of the shopping, all of the cooking, and all of the serving.
And the cleaning.
Well, we actually had someone to clean up afterwards. We had a gypsy girl who worked for us, and
I remember
but it was
one time you said you hadn't gone and made sure that everything was clean, and you had to go in and clean everything up. So, and then you left the restaurant after 3 years on a trip to India.
Well, in the middle of that time, I rented out the restaurant because it was so much work. And when you're young and you still want to have fun and all your friends are out all night, because Ibiza was definitely a party place.
Yes.
And still is today, sort of the party capital of the world. I decided at a point that I really wanted to investigate yoga and meditation further, so I traveled to India and Nepal and rented the restaurant to some people for that period of time.
But my gosh, when you read the way you had tennis shoes on climbing the mountain and you were living with some guy that you just met and all these kind of things that were way ahead of its time. Maybe now, like a bunch of kids living together is a different thing. But when you were doing it, it was breaking new ground, probably. I think it was breaking
Well,
new
now
ground.
they have, I did make a pilgrimage in India to the holiest cave that in the Himalayas called Amarnath. And at the time I was wearing Chinese tennis shoes and I wasn't prepared. I didn't have any trekking equipment. People were just starting to do these treks.
That's what I thought.
In 1970. And I did make it to the cave, and I had quite an amazing experience up there. And
another thing that was like groundbreaking, being a single mother. That didn't seem to like bother you at all.
no, when I got pregnant, there wasn't really an issue for me. I just figured it was meant to be.
And it was just someone you knew. Where in Portugal? Where was that?
My daughter's father was a Bedouin gypsy fiddler that I met working in a nightclub in Syria.
Oh, in Syria, right.
Yeah, that was another trip to the Middle East. Yeah, in those times it was a lot, people say, how did you get around? How could you afford it? It was a
Right.
very different time in the late 60s.
I know,
and-
because when you talk about the amounts of money that you got from home or that you maybe made, they were very small amounts of money.
Yeah, the 4 months that I spent in India on the first trip, I had $400.
I know, it's
And
amazing.
it lasted me. I mean, there was a point that I wanted to buy something in Kashmir, one of these beautiful wool jackets, and it was $15, and I couldn't really afford it.
Starting in the Middle East, talking about the Middle East, I know you brought this, and tell us a little bit about this.
Being Armenian, I'm the daughter of a survivor of the Armenian Genocide. My grandfather, who was living in Turkey at the time, had been put in a dungeon, imprisoned by the Turks. And while he was in the dungeon, he wove this little beaded tapestry. And it survived to this day. And I never knew about it until I started writing the book.
It's so beautiful. It's so fine, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he was in a dungeon, and then his granddaughter followed the same thing. You ended up in jail in England, right?
Yes,
Was it about drugs or not?
I was used as a drug carrier, even though I wasn't caught red-handed and they weren't my drugs, but I did make some bad choices and ended up in Holloway Prison, which is an infamous prison in London where I did spend 16 months.
That
and
was-
it was shortly after I had my daughter. They had a mother and baby unit, which is very unusual. It hasn't been done in this country at all to keep mothers together with their babies. But my daughter was with me in prison from the age of 8 weeks until she was 17 months.
Well, how long did it take you to actually write Siren's Feast?
Well, as a single working mother, and as someone who worked quite a bit, my massage therapy and Jinshin Jitsu practice, I had to carve out time to write the book. So it really took me about 7 years to write it.
I love the book because in it are recipes from all over the world. And one of the recipes, one of the things is this, that you made yourself because you're such a good cook.
Thank you.
Tell us what it is.
This is Bestia. It's a Moroccan dish. I call it one of the world's best dishes. And I had it when I was in Morocco. And no one really taught me to make it. I'm able to create things through my taste buds, but it's layers of spicy chicken and ground nuts. It's kind of a sweet, savory dish, and it's all wrapped in phyllo dough.
And what kind of spices do you use in it?
There's a spice I brought back from my last trip to Morocco called Ras El Hanout, which is made from anywhere from like 40 to 100 different ingredients. Cumin, turmeric, ginger, garlic. But do you eat this yourself? Oh, absolutely.
Oh, being a vegetarian, you can eat this.
Actually, I'm no longer. I was a vegetarian for 11 years.
I see.
And when I moved to Los Angeles, it was sort of like, show me the chicken.
Okay, and here we have it, the Bestia.
Yes.
But there's recipes for Armenian food, there's recipes for Spanish food.
Moroccan, Indian.
I know, I
and
love
vegetarian recipes. There's over 40 recipes in the book.
I remember, Nancy, when you were talking about writing this book, I thought it was going to be a cookbook. So I was like so excited that I got to read all the backstory of all this food. And I thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. And thank you for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles. Keep writing to 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles 90017. But email me, jaquinn1@aol.com. Thanks.